Hello, my name is Ashani Yapa. I'm from Sirus Migration and Education. As usual, this is our Thursday live session. We do this every first Thursday of every month. So welcome to the live. I'm sorry we are a little late to start the session. Some technical issues, but we are finally here. So lots of migration changes. So in my time working as a migration agent, I haven't seen this many big changes coming, which are predicted to happen later this year. I think starting from 1st of July, we will see many changes coming. If you are interested about Australian migration or planning to come to Australia, you can get in touch with us anytime. Our phone numbers and email addresses are displayed. If you have any questions while we are talking, you can please post them on our Facebook page or YouTube. Then we will try to answer all your questions at the end of our talk. So, big changes, where to start? I will start with the TISMET. So, the Home Affairs Minister gave a press conference and talked about many changes coming, and they are going to be reforming the migration system, making it smaller, possibly, and also more suited for Australia's needs in the coming decade. One of the big changes that's announced that we know that's happening is the TISMET. TISMET is Temporary Skill Migration Income Threshold. What it is the minimum wage an employee must receive if they're going into a temporary skill shortage visa, or TSS, or subclass 482, which used to be 53,900. So there were many employees who got paid 55,000 plus super and tax, or 54,000 plus tax and super. They were fine. But as of 1st of July, that minimum wage has increased to 70,000 Australian dollars. This is not just a number. There are many predictions we can do from this number as well. We can see that the quality of the migrants and the quality of this program is obviously going to go up, which means the temporary skill migrants who's coming under this visa and also other visas will have better pays and better expectations from Australia. So it's one of the really big news that was announced. Everybody's talking about it. And also she mentioned that people who are currently earning less than 70,000 should be okay to stay on the same wage. But if their 482 is coming to an end, and if they need a new 482 visa, then they would need their new minimum pay has to be over $70,000. So they can be expecting a nearly $15,000 pay rise in the next visa. Another big news was announced, which everybody is again talking about, are New Zealand citizens. So New Zealand citizens, when they, how the visa works for New Zealand citizens is if they want to come and live in Australia, they can just get a flight ticket and fly into Australia. On arrival, they get a visa called subclass 444. That's automatically, they become eligible as long as they're New Zealand citizens. But getting them permanent residency and citizenship was a whole new story. They had to go through a different system first to become an Australian permanent resident, and then they had to fulfill the residency requirement in order to get the citizenship. It's all changing as of 1st of July. Now New Zealand citizens who's been living in Australia on subclass 444, so just as New Zealand citizens, that time period will be considered as Australian permanent residents towards their citizenship. Again, really big news. There are many New Zealanders living in Australia. We also get phone calls quite regularly. They're trying to get there's approximately about 350,000 Kiwis currently living in Australia. And we also get frequent calls about, how do we get first permanent residency. So they used to have to meet again the minimum threshold for at least 3 years out of their time here, and then go through a different system called subclass 189 for New Zealand citizens to get the permanent residency. So it's all gone now. New Zealand citizens. Really good news. Now you can be eligible for Australian citizenship if you've lived here for at least 4 years. Right, so the next, again, few big announcements. It is announced that by the end of year 2023, so end of this year, all temporary migrants, skilled migrants, will have a pathway towards permanent residency. So what does that mean? There were a few occupation lists, and based on the list they decided whether that temporary skilled worker was going to get permanent residency or not. Only if your occupation was on the medium to long term list, you were eligible for permanent residency. You are eligible for permanent residency as of now, but I think this system's going to change. So you're going to be eligible for permanent residency if you're in Australia under skilled temporary worker program, whether your occupation is on the medium to long term list or short term list. Then again, these lists are also going away. She's talking about the outdated skilled occupation list. I sort of have to agree. We all sort of have to agree, I guess. The occupation lists were formed some time back, years back, and since then the economy has changed. The sectors, the growth sectors have changed. So some of the occupations that are in this list we no longer need, or most importantly, most of the occupations that are actually needed for Australia are not in these lists. They are not covered in lists. Sometimes we get people calling us and asking, okay, how do we get a visa to Australia? But I can't find their occupation in the list. So I think getting rid of the occupation lists or getting up-to-date data-driven occupation list that's needed for the country, it's a great thing for everybody who's thinking of coming to Australia. So this is such a good announcement that we all like about this occupation list. The traditional old occupation lists will be gone. Great. And also she's talking about 3-tier system. So highly skilled workers, or the global talent sort of skilled workers that we need in the short term, in the near future, and the faster visas for them. So let's say she was talking about an astrophysicist or someone who's highly needed for Australia. It takes months for them to get a visa with the current system. So she's talking about giving them prioritized visas, days, few weeks. So all this talent that's spread across the world that we really need to get into Australia, and we are competing with other countries for these highly skilled migrant workers, we will have a system to quickly get them into the country. Then she's talking about mainstream, which is the proper document set stream for them to get permanent residency for the second tier workers. And then again she's talking about industry driven skill shortages that Australia is facing right now. For example, the aged care sector and the health sector. So there'll be essential workers. So we don't know the dynamics of these 3 systems yet. They're not talking about in detail how the systems are going to work. Are there going to be new subclasses of visas, or all the subclasses are going to go away? We don't know the details yet. What we know that the current migration system will go through a major reform in the coming months, and we will get to hear about it. We are extremely excited and anxious at the same time, not knowing what's happening. But what I can tell you is, whatever happens, if you're a skilled migrant or if you have skills that Australia needs, there will be a pathway for you to come to Australia, whether as an international student first or as a skilled migrant. And to add to more, you will have pathway towards permanent residency and citizenship as well, which is great. What else did she talk about? Also, she talked about the point system. So currently there is a point system, you all know that, for skilled migration. So she's talking about this point system. Before we do that, we have a special guest joining us.
Hello everyone. My apologies on delaying joining the meeting, but I had unexpected and unavoidable responsibilities to complete. But hope you are getting updated with all the information.
We were just talking about all these new changes happening, TISMIT and all that. I was just about to talk about the point system. She's talking about the all point systems.
To be scrapped. We don't know which way it's going to happen.
Exactly. Yeah.
But hope it'll be a new good system. It's been this new point system's been there for so long. There'll be some sort of scrutinizing for the general skill migration sector. So we're all excited to understand what's going to happen. But I always believe in today. So according to the system right now, what we have, we still have the pathways open. This is not to be discouraged about. This announcement is not something to be discouraged about or something to be upset about. I think there'll be better opportunities.
Exactly. If you're a skilled person, if you have got a skill set that Australia needs, you will always have an opportunity. So she's talking about a larger migration program, but then in the long run, it's going to be a tighter, more competitive migration program. But there will still be a migration program. I think once all the changes come into place, we will all get used to it.
I guess our honourable federal member for immigration, Minister Clay, what she's targeting is something long needed in the migration system. So it's going to be always a new era. We've gone through these sort of bumps few times. I think it's going to be a new, better one. So there'll be migration streams to Australia in general skill migration sector, employee nominated sector, business talent sector. So there's no doubt it's going to continue, but it's just how they're going to scrutinize, how they're going to streamline it and fast track it is going to be the next challenge. And
the same with international students. They're talking about more stricter criteria for international students and talking about a lot of monitoring. Once you're here, just monitoring to make sure you are here for the reason that you said you're coming to Australia for.
Yeah. Hopefully there'll be a system that the international students or the general skill migrants don't have to adjust into a system to just pass through a visa.
Yes, that's right.
So what the members concern is to introduce and propose a system for migration system to fulfill those requirements rather than just getting a visa for sake of getting it. If we get chefs migrated for reason of fulfilling the chef vacancies rather than fabricated chefs or fabricated accountants to get through that. So it's going to be a good system supporting both sides. I think a message that we can also take out from that is if you're really talented on your skill set, I don't think there's any worries anyone at this stage. So I think that's good enough for that side.
That's right.
We have much more to talk about. I think
I think we've covered everything that she talked about.
And something I really liked about the announcement, also the simplification of the migration system. That's something well needed in Australian migration system. When you compare, I travel a lot. I get to see sometimes we do mistakes and stuff. The penalty is not as bad in other migration systems. So simplifying it is a good thing, and also another part I took is
attractive to people as
and fast tracking it. Yeah. Because I totally agree. Having a business entrepreneurial background myself, I understand when you have a vacancy or a requirement for a talent that you can't source locally, when you look for someone, waiting for a year or 6 months is not a feasible business practice. It's not always practical. So it's really hard for employers to wait for 6 months, 12 months, 2 years to have an employee. So straightforward system. So it's going to be good for everyone. So let's move on, and hopefully we'll see some indications of the new system towards the end of the year, and we endeavor to keep you informed as much as we learn from this, and also it's a good opportunity to remind you, if you haven't subscribed to our channel, it's good time to subscribe to it, because you never know, there'll be lots of, especially coming towards June, July, there's going to be new announcements anyway. So if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, subscribe now. There'll be more frequent announcements and announcements we'll be sharing with you. And Ashani is doing the General Skill Migration Program every Friday, and Miki is doing the student program every Wednesday, and we're doing this every month on first Thursday. So if you haven't registered to our system, it's a good opportunity for you to join. So having said that, let's have a quick chat about the next topic. And should we go into the questions to answer some questions to you? And also minding you, next couple of months going to be exciting in migration. As you know, in Australia, the financial year goes from 1st of July to 30th of June. So there'll be a reset of all the migration directions towards the next year. So we towards the end of this financial year, so there'll be lots of invitations coming up. We've seen some really good invitations for general skill migration sector. So let's take some questions. Good question. Pardon Mateko. Sumit Bishta. Hello team, hello to you too. Pardon, so these changes not going to affect to current applications. We assume it won't. Most of the time when you apply for a visa, the next changes or the new changes are mostly affected to future applicants, but to memory, April 2019 or 1919 457 got abolished, and when this happened, it was effective to everyone who was in whose applications were in as well. Yeah. So hopefully most of the other changes to my experience in my era or my period has never been affected to the current applicants.
Yes.
So
even the testmate, I think it's not for if you've already got a visa, but if you're on a 482 and if you need a new 482 extension, then you would need to go with the new testmate.
So testmates 53,900, just correcting some of the like, if you, in my interpretation in a way, it's not the benchmark for everyone. 53,900 is only an indication of the lowest benchmark. It doesn't say everyone should get paid 53,900. If there's, it also on the other side attached to the market salary of the current employer as well. So yeah. if there are similar positions currently working in the same workplace, it's not 53,900, so it's got to be equal or similar to that salary. For an example, if you have a chef working in your restaurant getting paid $80,000 and similar skilled chef coming in and applying for your restaurant at 53,900, it is not acceptable. You have to be paying same fee.
This is for people who was already getting less than $70,000 pay.
So we go through lots of employment nominated 482s and also 186 visas, and we hardly get to see 53,900 in current market anyway. So I mean, in general, this won't really affect much in the workplace when we consider the wages changes after post-COVID as well. 53,900 to 70,000, I don't think it will make a big difference. So, but going back to your question, we hope the new changes won't affect directly or impact directly to the current applications.
Yeah.
Emmanuel, news showing Australia in having a housing crisis. Lots of migrants, new migrants, I guess, that brings the demand goes up. And our inflation rates also going up. I'm not qualified to give you that advice, but when you think of the migration sector, of course, Australia is needing more housing because of the demand for migration. But it doesn't mean we get to see a lot of unhoused people, if I put it that way. So, Sumit, I have a question regarding SBO 491 Queensland. After getting 491, can we sell that business and buy new business? Not completed 2 years, and after getting 491, do we still need to employ someone? Look, the requirement, so once you get the 491 visa, there are requirements for you to you're obliged to maintain, and then there are requirements that you need to fulfill for your 191 visa. So my interpretation of this requirement is you don't have direct obligations to keep the same business, but you are required to maintain your full-time work and employment in a regional area and reside in a regional area. If you find better opportunities, of course you can sell the business and get into other businesses, but at 191 stage you need to fulfill the requirements. So to give you a personalized advice, I guess if you require a 101 advice to understand your background and the correct scenario, write to us or email, set up an 101 meeting with us so we can explain this further.
Yeah.
Anna, hi to you too.
I got an invitation for 190. How fast do they process after
accepting the invitation?
The invite?
So I guess the state government side of it, it's a couple of weeks.
But the visa can take some months.
Yes, correct.
Yeah. I've got Krishan's asking, English teacher with a bachelor's in Sri Lanka, can I apply directly for skill migration as a secondary teacher, because it asked about 45 days teaching practice.
Yes. So again, Krishan, to answer your question, we need to understand your job duties and your education background and also your English background. To become a secondary teacher, you need to fulfill a bachelor's degree, and also you need to have IELTS 7788 or similar bands in English, and also you need to understand your current job duties. When you if you go through 3-year work experience, etc., we need to understand what have you been doing. 45 just by completing your education itself wouldn't qualify you for
if you have work experience offshore, and if you can get a skills assessment through, you can apply directly when you're offshore. You don't need to be in Australia and work 45 days.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Hope that's clear. Let's see.
So
we asking Nadisha asking if there are any changes for student visas.
Currently,
as of now, no changes. So if you're thinking of applying, you apply. If you apply now or in the next month or so, I don't think there will be any changes, but it can change later this year.
Amir Nathani, again subclass 189, there's no visa changes at this stage, but the ministers proposed there'll be a system that's more simplified coming soon, and that might also scrap out the point system.
So 189 could
189, 190, 491, there'll be few changes to be
Yeah.
expected. So
9 saying my 491 visa officer has already asked me for further documents. How much time I can expect visa? Normally, once you get a further information request, if you provide all the documents, it can be processed within weeks. That's what
Correct.
we have seen, because that means the case officer has already opened your file.
and allocated.
Yeah.
Sanjay Hasanta, do we have to find the related job to apply for PR in next financial year? Currently, we don't need in Western Australia. So at this stage, none of the. So what happens normally is we get to hear about the next financial year's changes and the budgets from the government soon, and also then early June, late June, early July, we get to hear what are the criteria for each state.
Mhm.
I'm expecting that most of the states, they might also consider penciling out that job requirement, but we are not certain. We can't be 100% sali about this. So we'll have to stay tuned for the next financial year.
Update, yes.
Amir, thank you. You're welcome.
Carl saying hi there. Hi, Carl.
Hi to you
If
too.
there's
So,
anything, email us, call us. We are here. So as Isuru mentioned, and as I said, there'll be big changes coming, but still there'll always be a migration program for Australia. I can't see that changing in the near future. The ministers also talked about business visas and investor visas, major reforms, but it will still be there. She's saying it may not be scrapped out completely, but there's been integrity issues, so they will go through again a major reform.
if you're a talented businessman or a businesswoman, don't lose up your hopes. There'll be good opportunities coming up, but there'll be a system change or a requirement or the procedural change coming up. So
Yeah. And also I think the faster processing. So
Absolutely.
from what she talked about, what I understood, there will be faster processing for visas. So people don't have to wait months, and Australia don't have to wait for months to get the talented people into the system.
which I think is a very, very good thing, because as I said, I support it 100%. Amir,
Thanks,
189, the best of best
Bestia or any PR other pathway visa system. Depends on your occupation and your background, Amir. Maybe get it. 189 is a great visa because it's direct permanent residency, no states attached. You're free to do what you want once you're here. So in that way, it's a great visa. But to qualify
there are
for
other
that,
opportunities
yeah.
like 186 direct entry, 190, 491, other ones too. So
maybe send us an email, give us your personal background, and then we can suggest what's the best visa for you.
Carl,
If
hi there.
482 is lodged before June this year, is it eligible for TISMIT 70,000 AUD? Yeah.
Technically, yes.
Yeah. So,
So
the
if you're-
TISMIT requirement starting as of 1st of
1st
July.
of July. So if your application's in before, they have
you will
not.
go with the previous
Yeah.
requirements, hopefully.
But the new changes for TISMIT has not been legislated. So until it's been legislated till for 70,000, we don't know. Yeah, but I think it'll be as of 1st of July. Whoever's applied beforehand, it's 53,900.
I think we'll probably take last question. I've got Anna asking, do clinical psychologists, clinical pharmacists still need to study in Australia? I was told there is a pathway.
Yes, it depends on the the skill assessing pathway. How recognized is your current qualification and work experience? Again, Anna, depending on the country of origin, we can consider whether you can straight away get your registration, or we have to go through a pathway program or upskilling your current qualification. hope that answered the question, and if there's anything we can further clarify, please feel free to set up an appointment with one of us, and happy to give you a free appointment for the initial consultation, and then we can clarify the whole pathway for you.
All right, thank you so much again for listening to us, and hopefully we gave some valuable information to you. I'll see you again tomorrow with the skill migration program. So tomorrow's program, as you probably know, it's just dedicated to a general skill migration. We talked about general migration points and other things. Now tomorrow I'll be talking all about Queensland. What Queensland. You need to do to get a nomination and visa through Queensland government.
World's fastest moving state. So stay tuned.
Sunny Queensland. See you tomorrow.
See you then. Bye.